So we're here on cereals stand of Npz Uk, the year 2025. We're standing in a plot of Maverick. We're just going to talk a little bit about what the reasons for growing oilseed rape could be this year, how you can use varieties, but also how you can use some agronomic tools to grow oilseed rape and to get the best out of it for the coming season. So I'm here with my colleague Rene Brand, who's come over from our main breeding station in northern Germany. He's international product manager for oilseed rape, and we're going to just discuss a little bit, firstly, the reasons why all growers should be considering growing oilseed rape this year, whether they have in the past seasons or whether they've gone away from it and are still thinking about diversifying that risk in the break crop. So as I understand it, Rene, actually there's been some challenges in Eastern Europe this year with frosts, and we're potentially looking at some sort of shortage of crop in Europe, and that's one of the signals for this positive price at the moment.
Exactly, Michael. There is really two scenarios now. We had in the last weeks in the western part of Europe, mainly in France, parts of Germany, these drought conditions, similar like here to the UK. But more interesting for me is the conditions in the eastern part of Europe, Poland, Baltics. We had a big, strong late frost in the second half of April, and also in Ukraine, and that is probably for the further price development the most important factor. We had here difficulties last year in the sowing, very dry conditions, so they lost around 200,000 hectares for that, and then also this late frost in April. So there will be definitely a lower production from Ukraine, and usually most of this production is coming to the European Union. So I see here personally a lot of arguments for continuously high price level.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then bringing back that to the UK, we've seen, well, as oilseed rape has reduced in area since the days of neonicotinoids, and probably an area way beyond what it ever should have been. We've seen that we're needing to import into the UK a certain level of our own human consumption need. So yeah, if that imported pool is shrinking, it should offer some really good values for oilseed rape, and a good planting signal. Moving on from that overall picture of why we should be considering oilseed rape for the gross margin on farm, we're standing next to Maverick, and I'm looking at what variety I should put in, because I want to measure my risk and I want to get a yield and a good gross margin at the end of the year. So why is Maverick the one to be really considering?
Yeah, I think with Maverick now reaching the first place on the recommended list, around 109% cross output, I think we see now the benefits of our regional breeding, because the father line from Maverick is developed here on our breeding station in Cambridge somehow 10 years ago. And this father line convinced over such a long period under different conditions. And that is exactly now what we see in Maverick, this very high stability and this stress tolerance. Personally, I'm convinced there is the vigour in autumn and springtime. We have this strong plant health package, lodging resistance, and then finally a very attractive yield potential and oil content for a good cross output.
And I think in recent years we've actually seen a little bit less flea beetle pressure, certainly in our breeding station at Cambridge, but that vigour is such an important part of the story. And it's not just autumn, isn't it? It's getting, autumn's one aspect, getting that crop away. But how's the spring vigour of Maverick when you need to get away from the larvae?
Yeah, definitely from our portfolio, but also in comparison to different other varieties from the market, it shows a very strong regrowth and quick start after winter. So it is really immediately starting when the temperature's coming up. So, and showing with this regrowth somehow this potential to grow away from this flea beetle topic, etc. And really quick developing biomass, side branches, and then a nice flowering.
And you mentioned just before that healthy plant or healthy stem. Maverick has RlmS and RlmS.
Yes.
They both act slightly differently. Would you be able to just quickly pick up why that's important?
That's a very good point. The RlmS is a standard resistance over many years. We already see somehow in some cases that there is maybe not the best efficiency anymore today. But it is interesting because RlmS is protecting against these early leaf infections on the cotyledon and the first leaf pairs. So, but RlmS on top is giving then a further protection. So when we see maybe a strong really infection pressure and maybe we have then some infections on the leaves, that will prevented by the RlmS, that this infection cannot go into the stem and then maybe grow into the stem down and maybe showing then this falling down of the plants. So because of both, we have full protection against stem canker, and I think it's marked with a 9 on the recommended list as one of the only one, I think.
Yeah, Vegas as well.
So it shows this benefit of RlmS.
Yeah, that's really important. The stem canker is what can really ruin your yield right at the end of the season, and then trying to combine a Brackling crop is a challenge.
But there is something further what I would like to add with this RlmS, and we see it also somehow on a recommended list as well now with this new topic verticillium. This RlmS and this very robust green stem is showing some nice advantage against this verticillium story, which is unfortunately growing here in the UK market, probably connected because of this high share of early sowing dates. So it's another really nice argument for buying Maverick, this RlmS story.
And you gave me a really nice segue there into there's some really early sowing. How can we use, we know we have to look at when there's moisture, we decide to plant, but how can we use sowing dates to manipulate what an oilseed rape plant naturally does and make sure we are getting buckets of yield at the end of the season, because that is what's important.
Exactly. Maybe we should use here now some plants which we took out from these 2 plots here on our stand. We have here on one side, maybe Michael, you can take these plants, examples from this early sown block of Maverick, and we see here somehow really nice developed crop. We have much longer plant lengths. In general, it looks really promising from outside, but we see of this early sowing date a really long big stem but without side branches. Why? This plant was accumulating too much temperature because of the early sowing, and then reaching this stem elongation earlier, and based on that throwing away then how we call it then this important side branches. So in general we can say, yeah, it's a nice crop, but the share of the pot package is much smaller in comparison to the plants from the late sown block. We see here in first reaction, okay, smaller plants, but the share of the pot package in general to the total plant is much bigger. We also count the pots. It's interesting that we have here with the later sown one more pots than with the earlier sown. And Michael, maybe we have to show up also a little bit the roots. That is also interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, the earlier sowing date, that means more time growing under long day conditions. We see a more thick root, but the root is not going so deep. With the later sown one, we can compare that here, I think, well, with the later sown one, the root system is growing stronger under short day conditions. So that means the root is not so thick, but the root is going to grow deeper in the soil, which is then helping us, especially this year in spring with these dry conditions.
So, as I understand it, Rene, from work we've done with our colleague Dr. Ute Kropf in the University of Applied Sciences in Kiel, when that plant is getting too advanced too early, it then starts to cannibalize its own yield potential before it actually gets to the spring.
Exactly.
So it's when it's sort of starting to stem extend, you're just losing yield from that point forwards?
Exactly. So the point is somehow like 10 years ago, we had this what we call then the stem elongation point, this 1200 degrees temperature accumulation. That was 10 years ago in springtime. Now we have seen it also on our own breeding station in Cambridge, that when we sow too early, we reach that point already in the autumn time. And the point is, stem elongation means automatically reduction of these side branches. In the past, as I mentioned, 10 years ago in spring, we could compensate that with a fertilizer. When we reach that now in autumn time, we cannot compensate that, and it means that the rapeseed has then over the winter a lot of time to throw that away, and then we lost that, and that means that we have a nice plant but not enough pot package.
Okay, so hopefully that's a really quick but quite detailed overview of firstly where oilseed rape can sit as an important mitigation against markets, an important part of the rotation, and why Maverick and utilising sowing dates could help you have a really successful crop this year. So yeah, thank you very much, Rene, for joining me.
It was a pleasure.
Really interesting, and hopefully you have some ideas and want to try something this year.